Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Brandley.
And I'm Alicia Coakley. Every member of the church has a story to share, one that can instill faith, invite growth, and inspire others.
On today's episode, we're going to hear how one couple's nightmarish anniversary trip showed them that our Heavenly Father knows us and knows how to meet our needs at the right moment. Welcome to Latter-day Lights. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Latter-day Lights. We're so excited that you're here with us, and we're really excited to introduce our guests today, Jordan and Jenifer Brooks. How are you guys doing?
Hello.
Doing great.
We're doing good.
Jordan and Jen, you guys are coming to us all the way from sunny Florida, where I used to live. And you guys are so far in the future for us right now. It's like you're going to turn into pumpkins pretty soon, aren't you?
It is a little late, but we're all good. We're all good.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to tell you guys, all the listeners here, something funny. So we had in our ward in Florida, in the Lehigh Acres ward, we had so many Jens that we had to distinguish which Jen we were talking about. Yep. And so she fell into this group of Jens, and it was so hard because they were all fabulous and we loved them all. And it was just, it was like the Jen show there, that we loved it.
It was fun.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
There's very many Jens left in our ward.
Really?
Yep. Mm-hmm. I'm the only one right now. So.
You're the OG. You lasted.
Awesome. Yeah, I just went to Florida on a cruise. It was fun. Went to the Florida Keys.
That's not Florida.
Really cool. So we actually went to church on the Florida Keys when we were there, and there were how many people were there? There was 14 people in the whole church.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Me and my son passed the sacrament. My wife played the piano.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So they couldn't have church without you guys that day, huh?
It would have been tough, but it was fun though. It was the bishop or the branch president there was a hoot. He was really funny. He was cracking jokes from the podium pretty much the whole sacrament meeting. So anyway.
Were there other cruisers there as well?
Yes.
Oh. There was?
So
okay.
Yeah, until and there were 6 of us. So yeah, there was oh my gosh. We were over half the congregation were visitors.
That is so funny.
Yes.
Too funny.
Anyway, so why don't you tell us a little bit about you guys?
Well, we are the Brooks. Jenifer
and Jordan.
And we have been in Fort Myers since 2006, so just over 16 years. What brought us here was
just finished school and elementary school, then we moved down here.
Yeah, we have 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. Our 3 oldest children have graduated from high school. So Jameson and Kelsey, they are out at BYU, Idaho right now. Spencer is actually serving a mission in Orem, Utah. And then our youngest, Kendra, she just started high school. So she is the only one at home and has to put up with J&J.
I'm sure she loves it, though. I'm sure she's like, finally, older siblings are gone. I get all the attention.
Yeah,
she misses siblings, but yeah. So we have an eye care practice here in Florida, and just really love it. I'm originally from Rexburg, Idaho, and my husband's from Washington State, and so being in a place where we can wear flip-flops and T-shirts all year round is pretty phenomenal for us. So yes, we love living in here.
That's awesome.
Very cool. All right. Well, guys, Scott doesn't know hardly anything about this story, and that's the way I like to keep it sometimes with him. So we are going to go ahead and extend the floor to you. Tell us, where does your story begin?
I'll start since I think Jen will be able to talk quite a bit here. So
Yes.
I'm a little more quiet usually, but so we both like to travel, and around, let's see, our anniversary was in May, so probably a couple months before that, I started looking, what can we do around our anniversary, and our birthdays are around that time too, in late April. So I got online, I found some cheap plane tickets to Cancun, and so we bought the tickets, and then we flew down there, found a fun place to stay, and just did some typical things down there. Went to like one of those adventure park places, and then the last thing. So Jen, I was trying. This was all kind of last minute, and I usually love planning travel, and it's fun for me. I like getting into the points and getting free travel, and what I wanted to do that I'd heard other people talk about was going to some ruins, Coba, which are so there's Cancun, and then there's Playa del Carmen, Tulum, and then if you go inland from Tulum, about an hour and a half, I believe, then there are these bigger, kind of more untouched ruins, Coba.
Oh,
and
cool.
Yeah, and so Jen wasn't really feeling it going there because
Do you want me to step in?
Yeah, sure.
Well, just for a second. Here was my reasoning is we were flying in on a Friday. This was the thing. It was going to be a very quick, 3-day weekend, flying out early Friday morning, having fun, and then flying home Sunday evening. So it was just very quick. It started Monday morning. This is our 24th wedding anniversary, by the way. And so I had thought, well, maybe on Friday we could go to Coba. That way we get that done, because I knew he really, really wanted to go to that. And he had thought about doing it Sunday. And I was like, well, I don't know. I would rather maybe just have it more relaxing Sunday, because I knew we had a 2-hour, we had to get back to the airport. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to have all that crazy trying to figure out stuff and getting to the airport.
Right.
But on Friday when we flew in, we tried and tried and tried. Like, we were trying every avenue to get to Coba. And I mean, it was like going in circles. We would ask one person and they were like, oh, you need to go to this bus stop. And anyway, we just went in circles. So hence.
Yeah, we attempted to go just using public transportation. Part of it was we were trying to save a little money, but we kind of, I like being adventurous and using public transportation when we travel. And
wow.
Standing out on the side of the road and you're like, pick me up.
In Mexico.
Sounds like a great idea in a foreign country.
We have video of that. I'm like,
I can get by pretty good with Spanish. I served a mission in Brazil, and I've just learned Spanish since I returned back to the United States, and get to use it here at work. So I kind of like the adventure. It's fun. It's different, and it makes you grateful for things we have here using, public transportation in some of these other countries. So we got to Tulum, and then got kind of a run around, heard different things from different people. Normally I have things all planned out, but this was kind of a last minute trip. So anyways, we went back to the resort, which was, if I remember right, 20 some minute drive from there. So we took the little local colectivo buses that are really interesting, taking those. So I was kind of obsessed with, I want to go to Coba. Like, let's get a rental card that last day, and we can do this. So we did. We got a rental car right in Tulum. I looked up, there was a Hertz dealership there, so we rented the car. Careful not to kick. We rented the car, and then this is the last thing we're doing. So we drove to Coba, saw the ruins, and then on the way back, like, we're going to the airport. Right as we're pulling into, like, getting back into Tulum, back into the city, because a lot of it's just undeveloped on the way to the ruins. Everything's fine. And then we're in a small vehicle. I'm trying to think of what to compare it to. It's a Renault brand, French brand. but it's just to help you kind of visualize how big our vehicle was. It is like technically an SUV, but it was significantly smaller than like a Toyota RAV4, so it's pretty small. And so then this truck, it was a 2003 Chevy full-size truck, so kind of like a Silverado or something, like a Ford F-150 size truck. Jen and I were in our lane. It's a 2-lane, highway, just like this. And the truck just kind of goes out of his lane away from us, and then he overcorrects and comes into our lane. And I just remember thinking like, this isn't good. And, and so we're probably going 60 miles an hour, and I had the chance to slow down a little bit, but not much. So the truck's like skidding. And so when the collision happened, I hit the truck right in his, front passenger tire. And then I just remember, I'm pretty sure I just closed my eyes and here, you can.
Well, the thing was, it was literally like out of nowhere. So like Jordan was saying, I happened to be looking at my phone, and when I looked up, that's when it was like, there was the truck. Like it was just, we didn't even have time to yell, scream, nothing. It was just like, there it is. After the impact, I just remember just rolling, and then coming to a stop on our side. And every time we rolled, like it's embedded in my head, like it's just the crunching of the glass, the smell of burnt, and because my eyes were opened, I remember thinking, okay, this is how I'm going to die. Like, and if you ask anybody, like getting in an accident is like my worst fear. Like I'm the worst backseat driver. I will just tell you that. I am so scared. I always get nervous. And so when this happened in my head, I remember thinking, okay, what happens next? Does somebody come? Is there an angel that comes down? Like what happens is what was going through my head right before we stopped. And we were on our side, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like I was trying to catch my breath, and because I was hanging, because it was on its side. So I was hanging upside down with the seatbelt. And every time we rolled, the seatbelt cinched up higher into like my left side. So all I remember is thinking, I have to get out of the seatbelt. I can't breathe. I have to get out. And so I remember hanging, and I kept looking around, and I saw an orange button. And so I pushed it and fell. But it's like, I don't remember. It's crazy to think, but I don't remember in the vehicle. It was like, I just needed to get out. I didn't hear Jordan say anything at that time. I just started crawling. And it was almost like I was underwater. It was like my ears were ringing, I think from the sound of like the impact of the vehicle. Right. And then there was blood. There was blood all over. And like our luggage was just mixed up everywhere in the vehicle. And I remember crawling, and I saw a woman outside her vehicle. And I could hear her saying, we can't get him out. We can't get him out. And I think at that point, Jordan at that point said, like, Jen, I think you said, Jen.
They're going to roll us over like upright.
Like, Jen, they're going to roll us. They're going to roll us.
Yeah.
And
you were a little bit like out of it. I think
mentally. I was in shock.
So I just remember, she had her eyes open. I had my eyes closed, and I just remember opening. Yeah, I'm on the side closest to the ground where she's up. And this happened right across from one of the cenotes, the swimming, like they're like sinkhole kind of things.
Yep.
And so we can get to this later because I think this is significant, but there was video surveillance from this because of that business. The sinkhole is called the Grand Cenote. And so there's usually people waiting in line to get in there, like 20 some people. I think maybe on Google Maps you can see the line of people to get in there. So they came over and they flipped us over, and then people waited for us there. They were helpful. One of the guys I was, speaking Spanish to, and he said, "Did you get your paperwork out of the glove compartment, your insurance papers?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's a good idea." And he went and got it for me. And then he had a friend that spoke really good English. So his friend was talking to me, and when the police showed up, and Jen was able to walk away from it. And the friend, he saw the police kind of getting everything, assessing the situation, and they said something about me going with them. And then I thought this was the way he said this made it significant to me, where he said, "Hey, your luggage," he's like, "keep those with you at all times. Don't let those out of your sight." Because he could tell that wanted me to go with them, and I was wanting to go with Jen in the ambulance. Just to rewind, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but so I remember when I opened my eyes, I saw there was blood, and I was just looking around the vehicle. I'm like, okay, my wife, I see she has a cut on her forehead, and then I had, I just remember looking in the cabin, like thinking, okay, is it going to be crunched in? Is the integrity of the cabin going to be messed up? I didn't know what really to expect.
Yeah.
And I just remember looking, okay, there's shattered glass. Over the years, I'd been in 1 or 2 accidents, I think as a passenger, and seeing something like that before. So I was like, okay, this could be worse. And then I was looking at my hand, and I don't know how well you can see this, but this is all that I left with, is this a little bit on here. I didn't go to the hospital or anything. And then on my hand, cut up. And so I was just bleeding, and I had a bruised pinky toe and a couple of days later, bruised seatbelt. And then I looked at Jen, I'm like, are you okay? Are you okay? And she just was kind of like, I don't know. And she was more, I think, affected because
delirious
and you can explain.
And in a lot of pain. So after I got out of the belt and crawled, and we were flipped and everything, I just remember when Jordan said, "Jen, they're gonna flip us. Brace yourself." And I was just like, no. I don't want to roll again. And they did flip us. And a lady, I remember, she opened the back side door, and she grabbed my hand and started pulling me. And I just remember saying, slow, 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 slow. Cause my left side and my back was just in so much pain. And I was like, I had blood all over my face, my hand, everything. I think from when I fell, there was pieces of glass. So they had gotten into my skin.
Right.
So she took me out. I saw Jordan, he had blood streaming, little strands on his head. So I was like, okay, maybe that's where the blood's coming from. But she took me out and put me on, there was this, which this is crazy. When we were driving, I will just say, when we were driving, there was lots of trees, but this particular spot where the accident and the impact happened, when we rolled, it was a clearing. So I don't know what would have happened if we would have been in a different area and rolled. We may have smacked into a tree. I don't know, but just this tiny area, no trees. It looked like maybe it was parking, like they had just taken down some trees. Which, oh my gosh, was a blessing. But the woman, she took me out and took me to the side, and I was just bent over. She started asking me my name. Where are you from? Are you from here? And I just said, no, my name is Jenifer. I'm from the United States. I can't believe this happened. We were just going to the airport. And then I explained where I was hurting, and she was so kind. And just, she got a glove, and she's wiping off my face, and she's holding my hand. And she said, "You're going to be okay. There's an ambulance coming." And she spoke English. And so I had no idea if she was a tourist from that little place across the street that came to, I don't even know. But shortly after, the ambulance came, they put me on a backboard, which was very painful. And they put me in the ambulance. I mean, it was just surreal. It was I cannot believe we just had the best time. And literally within seconds, this whole
just changed.
Yes, everything changed. And
Now, did you guys have any like inklings? Like, did you have any like, I don't, like maybe something, maybe I should slow down more before, like anything before?
No,
it was just kind of so super random, huh?
Out of the blue, fast.
Yeah. Well, what was funny is when we were at Cobal looking at the ruins, I knew we had to hurry. Like there was a huge downpour while we were there. And so we knew the roads were going to be kind of slippery. At least I was like, oh my gosh, like it's downpour. And on the way back, there were 2 different ways we could have gone. And it was only like a 5-minute difference. And so one had a toll, but we were out of like pesos. So we were like, shoot, we could go this way, but we don't have enough pesos to go through the toll because we're on the way to the airport.
Right.
And then we just made the decision, let's just go back the same way we came, let's go to Tulum and then we'll head to Cancun. And so I think that was the only thing is we were kind of like, what way do we go? And we chose that way. And I keep playing over in my head, like, what if we would have just stayed a few more minutes in Coba? What if we would have taken that 5-minute detour? And you know what I'm saying? Like you kind of go through your head, like the timing of everything. And I don't know if you guys have ever had that experience where you're like, if it was only just a few minutes, like
maybe not even that
more
long,
or less, like would that have happened? Like I don't know. And so, but anyway, moving forward, so I'm put in the ambulance. Jordan comes to the door of the ambulance and he hands me my phone and my wallet. And he said, Jen, I want to come with you, but the police say I need to stay and do a police report. And I'm in a neck brace. I'm like in shock still and I'm crying. And I was like, okay. And he was very like, make sure you don't, like your eyes don't go off your stuff. Cause he was really worried that like somebody was going to take it. Right. So like, okay. So I had my stuff and then the ambulance left, like it went to the hospital. When I get to the hospital, of course, they get me right in and they are checking me and I don't speak Spanish. So that was one of the things that I am like, oh my gosh, I am in a foreign country. I don't speak Spanish. I am injured. And how am I going to communicate all these things? Right. So hooking me up to IVs. I'm trying to explain what's going on. They were very helpful. I mean, they took good care of me, but it was crazy because one of the first things they did is they grabbed my hand and I had to sign paperwork. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is really so crazy. I'm signing paperwork and stuff. And it was, I mean, CAT scans, ultrasounds, MRIs. They're trying to do all these testing with me. And then there's like several doctors coming in, checking my head, checking to see if I have internal bleeding. I mean, it just went on. And I'm trying to communicate. At one point, I remember I felt like I was going to throw up. And I have a neck brace on. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I got really nervous. Like, how am I going to tell them? Because they had like come in and then some of the nurses had left. And I was like, how am I going to explain? Like, you have to take this off because I'm getting sick. Like I'm getting nauseous. And I remember like just doing sign language, like saying, like I was like trying to clap and like I'm going to throw up. And I guess the nurse caught what I was like trying to do. And 2 nurses on both sides came and just ripped the neck brace off. And I just remember in my head, like I had to really mentally, like talk myself out of stuff. I had to be like, Jen, calm down. Jen, take some breaths. Jen, you're okay. Like, you're okay. I just over and over was like, I needed to calm down because I think I was getting so worked up of the what if, like, what if I'm internal bleeding? What if I am going to die? And I mean, it was just horrible. I remember they had to cut off my shirt and I was like, oh my gosh. A new shirt. No, I was just like, oh my gosh, like I cannot be in this situation right now. Anyway.
And did you know that Jordan was okay? Like, were you?
No. So this is the thing. So you didn't know. The last thing I heard from him was they're going to bring me to the hospital. So in my head, I was thinking, very soon he'll be to the hospital. but it had been hours. Like I had done all these testing. I had gone into kind of like a triage room, and they kept coming in every little bit. And at that point I was like, okay, my husband is not here. It has been a long time. I started thinking like, maybe he was really injured. Maybe they took him to another hospital. I have no idea where he is. And so I remember, once again, I don't speak Spanish. So I decided, okay, I remember I had my phone. They had put my phone in like a bag and had it somewhere in the hospital, the ER area. So I remember just saying, hola, hola, yelling it, hola, 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 hola. And somebody, I know, you laugh, but I'm telling you.
It's like, what do? Yeah.
You don't know. You were like adding all kinds of fun little words to your own. And so I'm like, okay, hola. And so a nurse came in and I looked at her because, you know, they still have my neck brace and stuff on. And I looked at her and I just said, telefono. And I'm laying down, telefono, esposo. And I'm pointing to my wedding finger and I'm like, phono. And she went like this and went and got the phone. She knew what I was so she went and brought me my cell phone. I immediately called Jordan. Immediately picked up, and I'm like this, dialing, and he answers. It says Jen, and I'm like, Jordan, where are you? Where are you? You're supposed to be here. And he says,
I said, I'm in jail right now. So
yeah.
So in
wow.
Mexico, they can legally hold you for like 2 or 3 days if there's an accident that's a severe accident if they don't know who's at fault. But
like even though you were injured, they weren't gonna get you checked out or anything. Oh my gosh!
If I could go back in time, I'd probably say, yeah, I need to go to the hospital. But it was I could tell just by looking at my hand. I'm like, I don't think I need stitches. It doesn't look like it. And so they took me to jail. And so at first I was just at a police station, they asked a bunch of questions. I was there doing just a lot of paperwork because they were writing stuff down. Then they took me to a different police station. And I was in an office with a lady doing a bunch of paperwork. Then they took me back to another office, did some more paperwork. And then they said, hey, you're going to wait around the corner. And also they read me my rights in Spanish, and they said, did you understand that? And I said, I probably got like 70-80% of it. Then they had me read my rights. And by the way, they knew I was innocent because there were people there that saw the whole thing happen. But then they're like, okay, you're going to wait around the corner. So I come around the corner and I just see this jail cell, like something you would see in some movie, like in some, developing country.
Oh my gosh.
Inside, I'm just kind of like laughing, like, this, whatever, you guys can't hold me here that long, But so, yeah, after being in there for,
want me to go ahead?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I want to jump in because, so after he tells me this, Jen, I'm in jail. And I remember you saying, they know that I have my phone and they're going to take it from me. So I'm not going to have any way to communicate with you. So you need to find a way to get me out. And I'm like crying.
I'm in the hospital.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Have injuries. Like, I don't even know what the extent of my injuries are yet. And then he tells me this, and I am just like a basket case. I mean, I am like,
oh my gosh.
It was one of those moments where I remember like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? And I remember really thinking, and I'm going to get emotional because it was for me, I was very traumatized by this whole thing.
Understandably so.
So he says, so we have some good friends that live in Naples, and they happen to be lawyers and speak Spanish. So my husband says, you need to call them. You need to call them.
We were just talking to them about going there. They had been there recently, and we were talking about this with them.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, we need to contact them. So we hang up, and that's like my first call is to reach out to this friend and see if they can help us. And when this person answers the phone, I was like, hey, you need to listen very carefully. This is very important. Jordan and I have been in a horrible accident. I'm in the hospital with injuries and Jordan is in jail and I don't know what to do. We need your help. And he just sat there and was like, oh my gosh. Okay. Are you okay? I said, I don't know. There's been all kinds of test runs. I'm waiting to hear back. And then he just said, you know what? I'm on it. And he just, from there, he said, I will be in touch with you. From there, I tried calling my parents in Idaho. They didn't answer the phone. And then I tried Jordan's brother, who lives in Texas. He answered. I told him everything. It just seemed like I just didn't know what to do. And I remember just feeling like these were my thoughts. I want my mom and I want my husband. I want my mom and I want my husband. And I just kept over and over, like I just need somebody. Like I feel so alone. Like I don't know the language. I'm by myself. My husband's in jail. I have these injuries. Like what in the world? Oh. And every time, this was so bizarre to me, but every time a nurse would come in before a doctor would come see me, she had a yellow Post-it note and she would have a price written on the Post-it note and it would say, oh my gosh, $500, 500 US dollar. And she would look at me like, hey, and I would just shake my head. And then another doctor would come in and it would be like $2,800, $1,000. Oh my gosh. So it was like, and I, you just shake your head. Okay.
Like what else are you supposed to do? Like,
yeah, I'm like, I need to have help. Like I need to be cared for. So I'm just going to shake my head. Like I've got to do what I've got to do.
Right.
So Jordan, so our friend called me back and he said, I found a lawyer that can help your husband. And then he says, they're asking $10,000.
Oh and my gosh.
I just sat there and was like, closed my eyes and went, what? And he said, they're asking $10,000. We're going to try to get him down. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I can't even believe this is happening. So anyway, in the meantime, my parents get a hold of me. They have no clue of what is going on. No idea. They get a hold of me. They're like, hey, thinking, oh, you got back from your trip and you're going to tell us about it. And so when my dad calls, I just start crying. And I'm like, Dad, we've been in a horrible accident and I'm in the hospital in Mexico. I don't know and I didn't know what city I was in at that time. I had no clue. Mm-hmm. So both my mom and dad were just like beside themselves. They were like, oh my gosh, and Jordan, I'm like, he's in jail. So, and this was on a Sunday. So a lot of places in Mexico are closed, like the consulate, for instance. So we had people calling, trying to see if they could do anything to get Jordan out of jail. In the meantime, they're just trying to make sure that, checking on me, making sure I'm okay. So after I've called people, I'm just laying there and just contemplating, like, what's going to happen? Am I going to be here for a while? Like, I didn't know. A nurse comes in and she talked a little bit of English. So, she said that there was somebody here to see me. And I believe she said an aunt and uncle. And I was like, what? Like, I don't know anybody here. And I just looked at her and she said, like, I can only get one person come in. And I was like, I just shook my head. Okay. And so a man came in and he said, Jenifer, I'm from your church. My name's Mike. My bishop told me that you and your husband needed help. My wife is outside waiting to come in and she's going to come and stay with you. And I know that your husband's in jail and I go down and try everything I can to stay with your husband to get him out. And I was just sobbing. I mean, sobbing. And I couldn't see him because of where my neck brace was. And I just remember saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, over and over and over. At that point, he left, and a few minutes later, his wife came in, and Pam came over to my bedside, and she grabbed my hand, and she just started rubbing my hand, and just came over just so sweet, and she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you have to go through this. I wish I could take away your pain." And I just sobbed. And I said, "You know what? I've been wanting my mom. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you." And I was just, it was one of those moments where it was like, I really feel that heaven was opened and the Heavenly Father was answering a true prayer, because I needed somebody like my mom there to be by my side during that very scary time. So she stayed with me like another 5 hours. She stayed.
Oh my goodness.
She didn't know a lot of Spanish, but she was very like, all right, what's going on with this girl here? Like, she was very insistent on my care and what was going on, and and her husband was keeping in touch with us because he was down at the jail.
She didn't live there, or she did live there and she just didn't really speak Spanish, or and how did that even happen? Like did someone find a local building and call a bishop, and how did that happen?
So what happened is, we found this out later, but our bishop had contacted, and I believe Jordan's brother also had contacted a ward in Tulum. And this couple, this is so crazy. They are from Utah and they live there part-time. So they're kind of like, Alicia, when we get birds down here in Florida. So they were like that.
That's them.
They live there part-time, and they were literally going to be leaving the next day. Like, they were done. Like, they were getting ready to.
Oh my gosh.
And they were getting their home ready, so that they could leave. And one of their bishopric members came to their house to say goodbye. This is so touching. They came to say goodbye to him. And then they said, the bishop has one more assignment for you. There has been a couple from the United States that's been in a horrible car accident, and the wife is in the hospital and the husband is in jail. Could you help? And they said yes. They immediately, they put all their stuff aside and came to help us. And that was like such a beautiful, Christ-like thing to do, to just, whatever they were doing, they just put it aside and they came. And eventually, Pam, and I wish you have their last name, but it was a long last name. So I just remember Pam and Mike. She started asking questions with the surgeons. They came in and stuff. And they told me at that point, I did not have internal bleeding, but that I did fracture my back. And so I would need to be careful. I would need to get a back brace. They did not want me to fly home for a few days. And so Pam looked at me and she said, she knew that they were charging me like crazy. And so she said they would never charge somebody like their own, like a local. They would never do this to their own people. They're only doing this because you're from the United States. And I was like, I was just like in shock. I was like, what? Like this happens? And anyway, so she said, I have a home. I have a nice home. I have nice, comfortable beds. If you are able to leave and they give you the okay that you can leave the hospital, I want to bring you to my home and I'll take care of you. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like they don't even know us. Like they knew nothing who we were, just that we were, a member of the church that happened to be in this horrible accident and needed help, and they jumped in. And so we did talk to the one of the doctors, and he said that yes, that I could be released, but that I needed to be careful, and it would be up to me how I'm feeling and stuff. And so,
I want to mention what the diagnosis was.
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I had a compression fracture in my L3, and there was like a chip out of it. So you look at your vertebrae, your L3, and it was like tilted, and a little chunk was missing, and that was causing a great deal of pain. And besides that, like where my rib cage was, I think I I thought that I had broken my ribs, but I did not. But it was very, very bruised, like very bruised. My body was just black and blue. But yeah, so I got up and told Pam I need a shirt, and I don't have, because they had cut everything off. So I was like, I need something to cover myself, and yeah, so we got some little, throwaway stuff, little gowns, and her husband came back from after being in the jail, which he was still in jail, but he came and picked us up and took us back to their home, and they took me upstairs and helped me. And then I don't even know, it wasn't very long after I got there, Pam said, I'm talking to her, and she just looked at me and straight in the eyes, and she said, well, look who decided to join us. And I looked around, and Jordan was coming up the stairs all dirty and like blood stained, and we just like saw each other. And I mean, it had been like 10 or 11 hours, I think, since the accident happened, and just like embraced and cried, and just we just could not believe that it had happened. And so we ended up so the next day was actually our anniversary, like our actual anniversary. So yeah, we stayed in Mexico another 2 days, I believe. Mm-hmm. And Pam took care of us. Her husband actually flew back to Utah because she ended up staying longer. And then he had to leave. So they were going to be meeting up later. But it was, yeah, we stayed, and they took care of us, fed us, got my meds, got everything, made us feel comfortable.
Wow.
And until I could get back to the United States and be taken care of. But so tell them what happened. Like, so I don't know exactly the whole time, because I was in the hospital. So then when he came home, it was like, oh my gosh,
what's going on now? Yeah.
So basically, I had my phone for a while, so I just kind of videoed and took a couple pictures in there and called her. And after a while, they did take my phone away. They wanted me to write down everything I had in my bag. They were like, so that you have everything. But I think they were just trying to see what I had in my bag, if it was of value. And I think all I found out I was missing was some charger for my phone. But so sorry.
So you really did have things stolen from you? That's just so sad.
Just a charger, just to
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So then they took my phone away. So then I'm just in this quiet, jail cell. Someone asked me later, they're like, were there other people in there? I was like, wow, I guess it could have been worse. But it was as far as the conditions of it. If you look up, I don't know if you'll have pictures later, but if you look up on the Hertz Tulum website, I posted some pictures, like just cautioning people not to rent a car in Mexico unless you really have to. And I think I had a couple pictures of the jail cell. But that was the most. I write a lot of those reviews. I like to travel, so I appreciate when other people write reviews. So that's the most viewed review I've ever written. It's like I get my little Google notifications. You have 12 more likes or whatever for that one review. So, but it was like it was like this really dirty, smelly. Like I didn't even go look over where the toilet was. It just I'm like, I'll go see over there. But it was almost like I'm like waiting for is there gonna music start playing, and I have to start doing push-ups and do some movie montage of training to. I was just trying in my head. I had to make the light of it as much as I could. So let's see. So I guess I was in there. I think I was in there probably total of 7 hours, and then I was let out, and then they had me back in the closest office, filled out a little more paperwork. I think that might have been a psychological thing. Then they put me back in the jail cell. Then after an hour or something, two of the people there came and asked basically for a bribe. They said, hey, our director said if you pay the equivalent, it would have been like $1,400. I calculated the conversion rate later, but they said they would let me out that day. And And I'm like, I don't have any money. I gave it to my wife. And they're like, okay. And then,
Wow.
so then after maybe another hour or so, then around the corner comes this American guy, and he said, "Hey, I might come from your church." And then this is Nephi, a local guy from the ward down there. And then, come to find out the next day, I mentioned that we had been there one other time in Tulum. It was just on a cruise, and our tour guide of the ruins at Tulum, his name was Moroni, and he's like, "Oh, Moroni, that's Nephi's brother." So that was kind of interesting.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I guess there's this whole family that some of them do guided tours of some of the ruins. But
oh wow.
So Mike, he was kind of trying to negotiate to get me out, but it all worked out. I guess the lawyer got me out. We ended up not paying the lawyer what they were asking for. We ended up paying him $3,000. We thought that was fair for the amount of work they did.
Yeah.
But bottom line is I got out of there, and then Mike and Pam were super kind to us, and we're grateful for our bishop. And one of the things I think is one of the most key things is right before I got out, there was like this, I guess, supervisor, police officer guy. He was just in a polo shirt. He came by and he had his phone, and he showed me on his phone. He said, "Is this the truck that hit you?" And then, so I see the surveillance, the video camera, security camera footage, and it's fairly far away, but you can just see the truck collide with us. And as soon as the two vehicles collided, the truck just spun like that, like did a 720. And you barely see anything that happens to us because we just went out. But as soon as I saw that, I just got this immense feeling of gratitude. Like, wow, that could have been so much worse if it would have been a direct head-on collision. Us being so much slower, I don't think we would be here, or at least not really walking. So I feel like the Lord had a hand in this to protect us from this. Could have turned out way worse. And it all worked out, and I'm grateful for everybody that had a hand in this. I'm grateful for the Lord for protecting us, and it's sometimes, like the scriptures in Helaman, and I was just reading a few months ago how we need to be humbled to, we need certain experiences to keep us remembering the Lord, and I don't think either of us would want to choose this to happen to us, but in the long run, maybe there can be some upsides to this. Maybe we'll be a little more cautious when we travel.
Definitely.
With certain things. I know you can't really plan for this. Hey, you might get hit by somebody swerving into your lane, but just be a little more cautious and mindful in other developing countries. And I've talked to multiple people that have lived in Mexico or traveled to Mexico that have had bribes asked of them. My brother had it happen twice to him, and so.
Well, and the thing is, like it was such a great experience. Like it's a beautiful, beautiful country. So so much to do and explore there, and the people are very welcoming and beautiful people. But this was very scary. And one of the things that I also wanted to just shine a little light on is the amount of people that reached out to us. I mean, from our ward family, my parents flew out for 3 weeks to help us, so that they took me to doctor appointments, because once we got back to the United States, it was like basically starting over with x-rays, MRIs, going to doctor appointments, and all that type of stuff. So we had gone to a neurosurgeon, and he looked at my back and stuff, and he basically gave me two options. He said, you can wear a back brace for 3 months, and we can take an x-ray of your back every month to see how it's progressing and getting better, or we can do surgery, and we can, take that L3, take the L2 and L4, and go in and do surgery on it to keep the third one mobilized. And I chose the back brace. So for 3 months, it was very interesting. being in a back brace, and I didn't go to work for a while. I didn't drive for pretty much the 3 months. I wouldn't drive anywhere. It took a toll on my mental state because I was very traumatized by it. And 2 weeks after the accident and after we had come home, one of the great blessings was our third child. He graduated from high school, and he also received his mission call. And as he was walking, and I just in my mind kept thinking, wow, I could have missed this. Like, we could have not been here for these special moments to see our son, graduate and to receive his mission call. And just the gratitude to Heavenly Father for protecting us. Like Jordan said, it could have been so much worse, so much worse. I've sent you some pictures, so
yes, yeah, I saw them. I'm like, oh my gosh.
You can see some of it. Yeah, and just I had people from high school reaching out to me. I've had so many people that were just so loving and kind and checking on us, and I'm just so grateful because our Heavenly Father, He knows us. He knows us individually. He knows us perfectly. He knows what we need at the right moment in our life. Like, there was a moment where I was home one day, had my back brace. I was just feeling very overwhelmed and sad, and I was hurting. This was after my parents had left. And I remember out of the blue, like, I get this phone call, and I didn't tell anybody how I was feeling or anything. It just, this person was prompted to call me and said, I'm going to come get you tonight, and we're going to go get you something to eat because I know you've been at home for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I'm going to get you. And it was just like, as soon as I got off the phone, I said a prayer of gratitude because I was like, you were the only one that knew, like, Heavenly Father was the only one that knew my heart and knew that I was struggling at that moment. And so how grateful I am that we have a Heavenly Father that knows us. He knows us. That is one thing I know without a doubt, that He loves us and knows us. So through this whole experience, I have gained such a testimony of that, and I am so grateful.
Yeah, and she was in quite a bit of pain and discomfort. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit when I say this, but she will pretty much put on makeup to, like, go get the mail outside. And
that's why we are friends.
I didn't see
we
her.
Know.
It was probably like a good 3 to 4 weeks where she didn't put on any makeup, and I'm like, wow, she's not doing well. She's not doing well. She's not putting on makeup or anything.
Oh
gosh.
Wow.
Well, the thing I like about your story is, everyone needs a good Samaritan, and sometimes in their lives, and we can be that person sometimes, and some other times we need someone to be that person. And when you needed them the most, they're Mike and Pam were there for you guys, and that's pretty cool.
And not just Mike and Pam either, but just, like all the little behind the scenes, right? The people who made the calls and the bishop and, like just like all of that. You guys definitely, you had some angels for sure that were looking over you, on both sides of the veil. And I just think that's amazing. That really is so crazy. Oh my gosh. So let me ask you, Jordan, because you're so like, this is what I love about Jen and Jordan, right? Jen is like, okay, Scott, they're like versions of us, kind of. Like, Jen is just like, she loves to talk and she uses her hands all the time. And she's always smiling and, and then Jordan's very reserved, like he's a happy guy, but he's not a very expression filled kind of guy, I think, right? Like, maybe more in home or in your personal settings and stuff, but to the world, he's an observer, right? He'll just kind of sit back and just kind of like take things in. He doesn't overreact on things. And yeah, Jen and I were a lot more emotion based.
I can see that.
Yeah. So Jordan, for you, especially being in that jail cell for so long, not knowing what's going on with your wife, not knowing if you're going to get out or when you're going to get out, how, like, how was that having to deal with your emotions? And then how did that help you specifically with your testimony?
So I think, well, like I said, when I first saw that, I was like kind of laughing inside, but I wasn't really afraid that I would be in there that long. And I was just like, how long is this going to take? They mentioned something about it could be a couple of days before I see Jen. And me, honestly, I was just thinking, well, we're going to have to reschedule patients on Monday, or, I was thinking about just things like that. But inside, I'm actually thinking, like how good we have it, back home in the United States. A lot of developed countries around the world where we just have all these things as soon as I got back to the United States and I saw there were 2 police cars with their lights on, like, they were just, I just felt like this immediate feeling of gratitude. And like later that day or the next day, I followed like a police officer into a supermarket, and I kind of rolled up next to him and rolled down my window, and I was trying to like formulate how I just was going to express my gratitude for his service, basically. And then like I was kind of stumbling over my words, and I could tell he's like, well, what do you want? Like, are you crazy? And then I told him that, and then he told me some other story kind of like that where he worked near the border somewhere. Wow. And yeah, so we're very lucky that we don't have any major, widespread corruption in areas of authority, like one person I had spoken with who had lived in Mexico just mentioned how he had been broken into in his home, and he was told not even to tell the police. And another time he went to get a birth certificate for his daughter, and they asked for a bribe. And then I'm sure there's other major things like that around in other countries around the world. I mean, we're very lucky we're not in North Korea or some just place like that. No, the laws aren't there on your side as a citizen. So I'm very grateful. Sometimes it takes something like that, and you're just like, man, I'm grateful for what we have back here.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
What I love is that you mentioned just how our Heavenly Father knows our needs at the right moment. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about how, Jen, you kind of sent me a little text about this, about how the church really is worldwide, and I love that even in those countries that maybe have a less than ideal government and less than ideal practices and stuff like that in regards to dealing with situations like accidents, I love that the Lord has placed his members of the church all over, in all of those places, so that there can be some type of light to offset the darkness that's there, and that has always given me a comfort, especially, right now, like in the whole, for me, I'm like in the midst of moving again. And it's like one of those things where I just know wherever I go, there's going to be someone there that makes me feel like I'm at home, because the Heavenly Father has his church so beautifully organized. And we know it's going to be the same. Like Scott, when you go to the Keys, that you guys can be used right away, and you can just, incorporate into that branch. And I think it's such a beautiful testament of how truly aware Heavenly Father is of us, and how much he really it just has all of these tools in place and all of these people in place to help us through our journey here. So. Oh, I love you guys. You guys, you're amazing. Thank you so much for your story.
Alicia.
Yeah.
So do you have any last thoughts or that you'd like to leave before we wrap things up?
I would just say, even when you feel like things are like at the worst, like for us, the accident, it was such a happy vacation, and then ended on a really horrible note. The light is still there. The light is still there. Like Alicia was saying, it is a worldwide church, and I love that it is. You immediately become connected to somebody that you don't even know. You have no idea who they are, but because you know that you share the gospel, you immediately become friends and united in that. And so I'm just so grateful that we can count on our brothers and our sisters all over the world, no matter where we are, and that we have that, and that our Heavenly Father has that place that we are aware, and that we have that that we can always turn to. Like there will be somebody, like Alicia's saying, she's getting ready to move, but she's has every confidence that she will have a friend wherever she moves to. There's no doubt she's going to be needed, and there'll be a friend there for her waiting. So that's what I guess I would share.
Awesome.
And if there isn't a friend there, she will make someone her friend.
Exactly.
I will. Whether they like it or not.
Yeah. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for sharing your story. That's
Thank you.
Crazy. I've been to Cancun twice in the last year, and both times I got hired a taxi to take me to where I wanted to go. But
yes.
It ended up being less expensive for you.
Yes,
probably. Yeah, I probably saved money. No medical expenses or lawyers, but yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, you guys, just thank you again from the bottom of my heart. I'm so happy that you guys were able to come on here today and share your story and share a little bit of your testimony. I'm so glad that everything worked out for you guys too. And when I remember seeing your post, Jen, when it first happened, and it was just this, like, I felt that fear, even though, I haven't been in Florida in such a long time, it was this instant fear of like, oh my gosh, like what could have happened, and so I'm so thankful that you guys were kept safe and that you were able to come back to the States and to be with your kiddos again and to be able to experience healing and to have your testimonies grow. And I know that in sharing your story that you are definitely going to be able to inspire other testimonies to grow too. So thank you guys for that. So for our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Latter-day Lights, guys. We love doing this, Scott and I. This is it's become such a passion of ours. And we are so grateful to everyone who's tuned into the show and for our guests who's reached out to us. If you have a story that you'd like to share, be sure to head over to latterdaylights.com. There's a contact form at the bottom of the page that you can fill out, and you are more than welcome to get a hold of us and see if, you'd be able to come on the show as well. So with that, Scott, is there anything else?
Well, I just want to say, Jen, you almost got me. When you told me that they walked in the room, I almost cried, but I held it together.
That was close. I haven't seen Scott cry yet.
I know, but I felt it. I felt it when you said that. Man, I'm like, oh, I can feel the tears right there, but I held it. But just the fact that we can be the light in someone's life, and we never know when that's going to happen, but that we can be that, and we can be that good Samaritan. I just love that. And thank you so much for sharing your story. And for those of you that are listening, do your 5-second missionary work. Go hit that share button. Let's get this out there and let's touch some people's lives. Absolutely. So thanks again, guys, for being on the show, and we will talk to everyone next week. Take care.
All right.
We'll see you then.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.